Ahoy and welcome back to Arclay Overcast. I'm Tom and I'm incredibly grateful and blessed to have you here with me. Guys, I wanted to talk a little more about Resident Evil Requiem because I'm still super excited about it. And whether you're a family, friend, viewer, subscriber, or just stopping by because you were interested in what I had to say about this, I love you and I thank you. And I thank God for you. I was going back and looking through the Resident Evil website to see if there was any more information on Resident Evil Requiem, new information, and it's still the same stuff. This was a few days ago when I was looking, but I came across something and I was like, hold up. So it kind of threw me off, and I just wanted to talk about a few things here, but starting out, a little bit about Resident Evil Requiem. I'm sure most have read this. If you haven't, here it is. Requiem for the Dead, Nightmare for the Living. Resident Evil Requiem is the 9th title in the mainline Resident Evil series. Prepare to escape and chill you to your core. New era of survival horror begins 2026. So what I'm talking about is down here. We've got the story, a little synopsis of the story of this game. So everything is set in motion when a body, the victim of an unidentifiable disease, is discovered in an abandoned hotel. FBI analyst Grace Ashcroft is assigned to the case, but the crime scene is at the very same hotel where her mother died 8 years ago. Grace prepares to finally face the past and makes her way to the scene, but this one case leads to uncovering the hidden truth behind the outbreak in Raccoon City. The biological disaster that shook the world. Will this be the requiem that finally lays the memories of that aberrant disaster to rest? So as soon as I read the hidden truth behind the outbreak in Raccoon City, I was like, hold up. We know the truth behind what happened with the outbreak in Raccoon City. So that was my initial thought, right? And I got a little bent out of shape about it, but then I started thinking, well, we know the truth. The players, everyone who's played Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil Outbreak, know exactly what happened, how the outbreak started in Raccoon City. The fictional world in the Resident Evil universe doesn't know what happened, right? So maybe that's what they're talking about here, but if not, we know that the outbreak happened when Umbrella attempts to retrieve the G-Virus from William Birkin, and that backfires and he injects himself and goes after Hunk's team and annihilates them, and he crushes the vials of the G-Virus in the sewer. We see the rats running through it, and the rats are scattering the virus throughout the sewer. The virus slowly starts to, infect everything throughout the city, via the sewer system. And even in Resident Evil Outbreak, during the beginning, we see this same scenario. And then also during the first scenario of the game, you see the rats in the bar running around, and the people are getting sick. So I'm a little worried that if Capcom is saying this here leads to uncovering the hidden truth behind the outbreak in Raccoon City, are they planning on changing something in the storyline that we already have firmly established? What happened, it doesn't need to be changed because it's already perfect in the storyline as to how it happened. And when it says, will this be the requiem that finally lays the memories of that aberrant disaster to rest? So I had to look it up. Requiem is in the Catholic Church means a mass for the repose or rest of the souls of the dead. So is this Capcom's way of saying we're done with Raccoon City? Are they finally putting Raccoon City to rest and just finishing with it completely and either stopping Resident Evil, other than the other remakes that we've heard that they're making, or are they just completely moving away from the entire Raccoon City origin of Resident Evil and going a different way with it? I don't know, but these are the things that are running through my head when I read this. And then a little further down, we know that the location, return once again to the city of disaster and despair, Raccoon City, which we know that if we're going back to Raccoon City and Grace is having to go to the Wrenwood Hotel where her mother Alyssa died, I'm wondering if this somehow ties into, did Alyssa go back to Raccoon City and that's where she was killed? Because in Resident Evil Outbreak, there's a scenario called Hellfire where you're actually exploring a burning hotel, and it's the Apple Inn is what it is in Outbreak, and I'm wondering if that's has anything to do with this new hotel that they're implementing in this game. Anyway, Raccoon City, a Midwestern city in the United States, and the headquarters for the former global pharmaceutical company Umbrella. In the face of the zombie outbreak in 1998, the government approved a sterilization operation, a missile strike on the city in an attempt to quickly bring the situation under control, but this was swiftly covered up. There was a news broadcast at the end of Resident Evil 3 after Raccoon City was nuked.
President and federal council have ruled that the Bacillus Terminate operation is the best course of action for this extreme situation and have since executed. Based on that fact, Raccoon City has been literally wiped off the map.
So I don't know what they're talking about, how this was swiftly covered up. I get some things, maybe a lot of things were covered up, but I mean, the world knew. If we're going back to the original storyline, the world knew that the government nuked Raccoon City to stop the outbreak with the Bacillus Terminate operation. Now the Resident Evil 3 remake storyline was a little bit different, but it would make more sense to me, I guess, if we're going back to the original storyline, especially if Capcom is implementing stuff from Outbreak, which follows the original storyline. It doesn't follow anything from the remakes. It would just make more sense if we went back to the original story, which was simple and effective perfection. That was one of the greatest things about Resident Evil to begin with, was how simple and effective it was. Just simple and effective horror, survival horror, with a simple storyline. And I mean, it was perfect. It was great. But then it kind of seemed like, starting with Resident Evil 0, maybe even before that, Capcom started implementing weird, unnecessary origin stories for things that we really didn't need, but it overcomplicated things, with the Umbrella Corporation, with the T-Virus, with James Marcus and Oswald Spencer, and with Wesker, and all these other things that we didn't need origins for. It just really worries me that Capcom is going to try and impose more origins with the Resident Evil Outbreak story. We've got this guy in the trailer that's running around with his hood, bagging people over the head, saying you're the special one, the chosen one, and that stuff. That's a little hard to get over for me right now. I'm worried about that. I really hope and pray that Capcom doesn't mess with the storyline anymore, especially the Outbreak storyline. Unless they do something really cool with it. I mean, unless it's an origin that really works and that makes sense. Kind of like the way they did with the Resident Evil 1 remake with George Trevor and how he was the architect of the Spencer Mansion and Lisa Trevor and all this. That stuff was pretty cool and it worked and it flowed. If they're gonna do origin stories like that, I can see that working out for this game. But overall, I'm still really excited about this, and I can't wait to see more about it. And forgive me if I get a little defensive about it and a little bent out of shape about things, but Resident Evil is so special to me. So special, and one of the biggest main reasons why my belief and faith in God is so strong. And believe it or not, Resident Evil is one of those things that just reminds me of the Lord and brings me closer to Him, and He's been using it in my life since I was 9 years old. So it's very, very special to me, and it pains me to see them changing things and making things weird for me. So forgive me, but please tell me what you think about all this. If you read it, what comes to your mind. I may be overthinking it. I do that sometimes. Like I said, I get kind of defensive about it, but let me know what you think. And I love you, and I thank you all for being here and watching this with me, for listening to me. And please like, share, and subscribe. And talk about this with me. I really, like I said before, I love talking about this. I'm really excited about this game, and I want to talk more about it. So I love you. Thank you. God bless you. We'll see you next time on Arcly Overcast. Bye.